Bush is a major piece of British pop history. Um, she has a huge Wikipedia page, so I'm very much summarising here. If you're interested in finding out more, click on the link. I will provide a link to the Wikipedia page. So I'm summarising. He is a musician, a singer, and a songwriter, and probably many other things also. So in 1978, she released her first single, Wuthering Heights. She was aged 19 at this point, and it was at her insistence to the record company that this was the song that was released as her first single rather than another one. It got to number one in the UK charts. Apparently, and I found this mildly appalling, that this was the first time a woman had gone to number one in the UK chart with a self-written song. Um, yeah, it's happened more since, thankfully. She has recorded 9 studio albums so far. She's not performed live very much. In 2014, she had a residency at Hammersmith Apollo, which was incredibly well received, and people got very excited in the run up towards it. She's very private, she's very interesting, and she's very influential. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was the eighth studio album by Kate Bush, and it's not my first time listening to it. I'm going to try not to get too distracted by my anecdote here, but um, a few years ago, I actually what happened is I'd had an accident and had to be out of work for a while, and I got a bit bored, and so I persuaded some friends on Facebook to set up what we called the Album of the Week Club, and we took it in turns for everybody to suggest an album for everybody to listen to, and possibly comment on it. And this ran for about 3 years, and it was great fun. And so I heard it then when one of the members of the Album of the Week Club suggested it as an album of the week, and I really enjoyed it then. And I've really enjoyed it now as well. This album came after 12 years of a gap since her previous album, The Red Shoes, uh, which is an album that I've got, by the way. Part of that time was devoted to her raising her son, Bertie. So it was a long time coming. It was very much anticipated. It's a double album. And interestingly, that it's actually an album in 2 parts. And almost you could think of it as being 2 separate albums that have just been released together. So the first CD or vinyl thing is called A Sea of Honey, and the second one's called A Sky of Honey. So the first one, The Sea of Honey, is a disconnected set of songs, which includes King of the Mountain, which was a single and which was a hit. The second is more of a suite, and it's kind of a concept thing about a day out and about, with a particular focus on bird song, which is interesting. Musically, I'm going to throw out there that I would say it's art rock. Maybe some people would say it's art pop. I don't think it's that poppy actually. It's an eclectic mix of influences and sounds. So in my head, art rock is kind of halfway down the road towards progressive rock. It's still kind of quite accessible, but it's got interesting stuff going on in it. Some of the tracks are big. There's orchestra in here at sometimes, but there's also some tracks that are just her and a piano and feel very intimate as a result. It's rich. There's so much going on here. It's emotive. It's an evolved version of what I think of as being the 80s album soft rock stuff. So if you've been with me for the long haul, and I did a review of Sting's album, Nothing, no, yeah, Nothing Like the Sun. Get the right album. A few albums ago, not very long ago at all, and I was talking about this kind of album scene in the 80s, which was grown up from the single scene in the 70s. And Kate Bush is definitely part of that, and I mentioned her name in that. But it feels like this is that same kind of feel of an album focused thing meant for uh, adults who enjoy her music, but it's kind of come on somewhat in terms of the production and the sounds and stuff that's being used. It's at times it's very beautiful. It's rich. It's varied. It's evocative. It's very much my kind of thing. So I did find as I listened to it, So I listened to it twice. The first time I listened to it, I was driving, and it was maybe a good thing I didn't get too into it because I was driving, but I did feel like I was getting really swept along with it, which is great. Yeah. So the first half, as I said, is story-based songs. Well, I didn't say it was story-based songs, but it's songs. They're kind of story songs and whimsy. There's the song Pi, in which she recites a lot of digits of pi. There's a song Mrs. Bartolozzi has a section about washing machines. There's a song called Bertie, which is about her son, which is effectively a love song to her son. Joannie is about Joan of Arc. Room of Coral is apparently about her mother. My favourite track, though, is How to Be Invisible, which has just got some really odd, surreal words in it. It's like giving you a spell or a formula of how to be invisible, but it's got that kind of thing from Scarborough Fair of impossible things to do. I'm just going to read some of the lyrics here. Eye of Braille, hem of anorak, stem of wallflower, and hair of doormat. And it sounds like these are the ingredients you're going to put in your cauldron to become invisible. The second disc is more low key musically. It takes its time slower, and it's kind of got, I'm going to say, an almost classical feel. Not really, but it's verging in that direction. It's best heard, I would say, as one continuum, whereas the first album, you can take the songs out of context. There's the added focus here of birdsong, which uses kind of samples of or recordings of bird songs, but there's a great bit in which she's singing along to a bird, kind of doing turning it into words, but they're not real words, and yeah, it's so much fun. There's and the whole thing is beautiful, it's great. Let's talk about her voice briefly. It's very distinctive. She's got a huge range. She's actually got really, really good control. She's not one of these singers who does what I call vocal gymnastics. She's not doing the kind of runs of fast notes and impressing you with what she can do, but she can do some really impressive things. So a couple of times she holds high notes for a long time and sings it quietly. And I know that long, high, and quiet is not easy, and her control of that is really nice. But the whole thing is not about how good she is at singing. It's about this kind of whole feel of the whole package. So overall, yes, I totally loved it. It's intelligent, it's literate, it's almost at times literature in itself, I would say. So it feels self-assured, effortless, and quirky. It's very human. It's a bit like the product of some kind of talented Fruit Loop, which I think probably is a fairly good description of Kate Bush. That's what I think. What do you think? I'd love to know what you think about this album. And if you haven't heard it, go and listen to it. I'd strongly encourage you to listen to this album because it is a great album, in my opinion. So the next review on this channel is going to be of The Roots of Lightning Hopkins by Lightning Hopkins. But that's it from me for now.
Take a pinch of keyhole and fold yourself